National Signing Day is here, and while most of the work on Utah's class was completed in December, there's a few more players joining the program. And what does the 2024 class, now that it's completed, look like for Utah football? Let's discuss on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments, as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at on X. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. New customers can join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Ryan McCdonald of Deseret News. And Ryan, when talking about National Signing Day, this is the official one. The other one's kind of known as like the early signing day because it's 2024 National Signing Day. So like this is in 2024. This is the signing day. But the best guys always kind of commit on that earlier calendar date. Now that's the way it kind of works out. So there wasn't a lot that Utah did, but there were still a couple guys and guys I wanted to talk about that have kind of committed over the past couple weeks that I wanted to give a little bit of a shine to. One of those first being a receiver, a two-star, Dael Kamoku, and I apologize if I mispronounced his name, but two-star athlete, a receiver from Hawaii who was a first-team All-State guy, 5'11", 180. And this is a guy who is a little shifty. He's kind of hard to bring down the open field, does a good job tracking the ball. I feel like he's got solid speed too, can make some tough catches, good acceleration. Like when I turn him on, this is not a guy who's going to contribute now, more than likely even next year. But if you were to tell me like this could be the next walk-on receiver who's like a top 3 receiver on this team, I could see that based on the work ethic. And one of the things I also love about him, Ryan, is he's a guy who's made big plays in big moments. In the Hawaii State Championship game, he caught a punt return with about just over 2 minutes left, and he took it to the house to help his team win a state championship. If you're going to make plays in as big of a moment and a stage like that, I like guys like that on my team.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that you bring up right at the top about I think a lot of the guys that we're going to be talking about today or the couple that we're going to be talking about today are probably going to be walk-ons. I think I don't know if they'll be getting scholarships at least right away, but we've all heard stories, of walk-ons who I think Devon Vele was a walk-on. Don't quote me on that, but
you're correct.
Yeah. So there you go. Guys who probably however many years ago, Devon Vele, he went on a mission and all that. So I can't remember how long ago he entered the program now, but we were looking at a guy. I'm sure several years ago, however many years ago that was, we were looking at a guy like Devon Vele saying, "Oh, he's just a preferred walk on." Who knows if he probably won't do anything. And yeah, like you said, he ends up being one of Utah's most important players on offense, a really important player. And so that's not to put pressure on any of these kids that we're going to be talking about today, like saying like, oh, they're the next Devon Vele, chances are, that they might, like you said, they might not contribute right away and they might not contribute at all. But I mean, truth be told, the same can probably be said about some of the 4-star kids that they sign, that a lot of them, might not contribute a whole lot in their college career. So you never know. And yeah, I think you bring up a great point. Like a kid who can make big plays in big moments. Yeah. Take a shot on him and see if he can develop into something that into a player that can be good down the road, if not right away.
I think with situations like this, you're looking for guys who have that upside, who also are a good fit for your program. Like, not only can you see, okay, maybe there's a world if they come in, like, work hard, they could do something here. Like, this is where the character becomes so important, right? And I think Utah, that's obviously something that they still prioritize, and I think most schools prioritize. But like, this is one of the things like that more than anything else. When you're not dealing with the 4-star guys, is like how the fit for the program and all of that becomes that much more important. And I think that's where we see it in this case as well. From everything I've looked up, Kamoku seems like he'll be a fantastic fit. And he's not the only guy that recently committed to Utah. Also, Jaden Bland, a 6'1", 215-pound linebacker from the class of 2024, played his high school football in Texas, is coming to Utah. And this is a guy, as soon as I flipped on the tape, number one, anytime you play high school football in Texas, and yes, I did it. I played behind Texas, so I biased Texas, but Texas, California, Florida, right? Like, those are these states for high school football. And hey, Utah doing some work to get closer up there as well. Some recent NFL draft studies and all that stuff, like about some of the talent that comes from Utah, been pretty impressive to check some of that stuff out. But Bland's a guy who, to me, when I turn on, I love his coverage abilities. One of the first things that pops off the tape. He's got good instincts, can make up ground quickly, nice hands, does a good job tracking the ball in quarterback's eyes too. Also has that downhill speed to shoot through gaps. He's a strong tackler. I think he needs to get a little stronger too, a little faster, all that stuff. But once again, the potential is there. I like the instincts is a big thing I look for. Just those opportunities and those moments where it's like, it's a tough gap you got to shoot, or like a play that's got to be made right there. And boom, he slams on the gas pedal, flies through the line of scrimmage, and making that tackle a few yards behind the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that another one I could see, like, let's wait and see what happens. No, Devin Lloyd wasn't supposed to be anything at Utah. 2-star recruit. I don't even try to remember if he even was a linebacker, and goes on to have the incredible career he does now. He's making plays in the NFL. Bland's a guy who also I could just see like that. I'm not, once again, like you said, we're not saying he's going to be the next Devin Lloyd, but if you're telling me that this guy grew into a starter at Utah or went on to have a strong college career, like, that wouldn't surprise me based on what I see turning on the tape here.
Yeah. I mean, you took the first thought that I had in my mind, just talking about Texas, like, Texas football is Texas high school football, and yeah, I mean, obviously he had to be good enough to play Texas high school football. But I think another thing too, that is on the defensive side of the ball, that couple things with Morgan Scally. He's got Texas on locked at, like, he recruits Texas, better than just about anybody, and so, but number two is his talent evaluation ability. He's an awesome talent evaluator. Like you said, I bringing up Devin Lloyd again. Yeah, like you brought up the disclaimer. No, we're not saying these kids are going to be the next Devin Lloyd, but clearly, the defensive staff saw something in Devin Lloyd when he was in high school to be like, let's offer this kid, and yeah, I have very high trust in Morgan Scally's and a couple other guys too. Sharif Shaw, I think, is a really good talent evaluator, and several others on that staff, I think, are
his linebacker coach, as I think he does a tremendous job leading that unit.
Yep. I think they've got some really good talent evaluators on that defensive staff, and so yeah, you might as well again take a swing on a guy and see if he can turn into something. Completely agree.
Yeah, and that's what Utah did here with both these guys, I feel like. So it's going to be something that's interesting and fun to monitor. And, with National Signing Day in the books, this is pretty much, yes, there's still maybe some transfers and maybe a recruit or two that could still end up coming to Utah. Those kind of things can still shake out at the last minute. But this is Utah's class for the 2024 season. This is what, for the 2024 recruiting class season, this is what it is. So I think now we can finally talk about it and see what we think about it as Utah. This is what college football is now. Transfers, getting recruits, like, this is how you build your program, and Utah's, as it relates to 2024, is complete. So how did they do? We're going to be discussing that in one moment, but first, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snack, placing some super bets, and just, they have so many ways FanDuel does that you can end your season with a dub or two, or even three, because not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers can join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, capital LNO. You can make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Ryan, who do you got in the Super Bowl?
Man, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the Chiefs. I think they were down. I know that people are like, oh, they weren't the Chiefs of maybe a couple of years ago, whatnot. They were, but the fact that they made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy gets lots of hate, but between Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes, and so I think it comes down to players making plays, and I have more trust in Patrick Mahomes than I think I do Brock Purdy. So I'm going Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to be giving my pick away tomorrow, but make sure you guys head over to FanDuel to make your picks today. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes. It's our friends at UCCU. Learn and Earn, the UCCU mobile banking app that pays your entire family to learn about money. Kids look to parents to become more financially literate, but parents don't always know the answers. Learn and Earn breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games like quiz and trivia. Every time a family member completes a topic, they earn points that can occur and can be redeemed for gift cards to stores like Amazon, Apple, Sephora, Walmart, Nike, and more. There is age-appropriate content for every member of the family who can compete against each other and track their progress on leaderboards. Learn and Earn is inside the UCCU mobile banking app, so play it anytime, anywhere. The more you play, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more you earn. Learn and Earn, part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart Youth Banking Program, helping kids, teens, and parents have fun while becoming more financially literate together. UCCU, love where you bank. Ryan, as I mentioned before the break, the 2024 recruiting class is officially in the books for Utah. And as for just how they made out and what to think of this class, I really like this class for Utah. The only thing I would change is I wish they would have added a veteran offensive lineman and the transferred offensive lineman. Basically, they added Isaiah Garcia, who's a 4-star. So I really like the future and the potential of Garcia, but that's just where I look and I go, oh, I wish they would have done that. But what did Utah do? They potentially got their quarterback of the future. They have tons of guys on here, whether it's wide receiver, which is always a position that this team feels like they need to be upgrading as they try to get more explosive. There's tons of guys in the secondary they did a good job of adding, which, wide receiver and secondary outside of the offensive line really are the biggest needs. And adding a guy with superstar potential like Isaac Wilson, I just think is fantastic. And we can talk about some of the transfers in a second, because obviously there's a big recruiting ranking drop for Utah because they were in top 20 last year. This year, they kind of fell all the way back in their weight in the 50s, 60s, wherever it is. But to me, it's not as important because of the transfers. But just talking about the high school talent they added, I really like this group that's coming in. I think multiple of them have a chance to be longtime starters for this Utah program.
Yeah, I think a lot of that recruiting ranking is based on numbers, total number of guys you sign. And so that factors into it. And yeah, I think a lot of people did think, oh, this isn't as strong. This isn't as strong of a class as maybe a couple years, in the past that they've had, but they've had some really darn good classes, in the past couple of years. And so even though, yeah, they're in a power conference, I do think that's difficult to maintain every year. And obviously you do need to maintain that, but I'm going to sound like a broken record maybe, but I'm a little bit less concerned with that with Utah than I might be at other places, just because I think the staffs are really, really good at developing players. I mean, they were developing it before they were, a P5 and getting 4 stars, more often. They were developing the Devin Lloyds, those type of guys who were really under the radar. And so I again, really trust the staff a lot to develop guys. And so I am less concerned than I might be at other schools with other staffs. As far as, Isaac Garcia, Isaac Wilson, Hunter Andrews, they beat out Notre Dame. I feel like there was another school that they beat out, but I know Notre Dame was in there. So, I think they got a couple of guys who can be really good cornerstones, and then we'll see about the rest of them. But yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about the transfers though, because I think they did do well in the portal for sure, and yeah, I think they have some guys from the high school ranks who can kind of be the cornerstones of the class, like Garcia and Wilson, and then kind of see about everybody else.
Yeah, to your point, why are we going to start doubting Kyle Whittingham and this staff when all they've done is consistently develop players and help them grow into the best versions of themselves, recruited the right type of guys that fit their system. So how are we going to doubt them? And they've gotten players where it's like, okay, I feel like some of these guys are going to produce in the future. Like I feel good about them. If this was all Utah did though, yeah, it would be a little more concerned because we're like, well, there's other holes and things that they could have done. But that was also a strategic shift by Utah where they decided they wanted to focus more on the transfer portal, not solely on the transfer portal, but a lot on the transfer portal. It's like we need receiver. We got Cam Rising. I need receivers ready to go right now. Let's get a guy who had 1,000 yards just 2 years removed from that, and Dorian Singer. Let's get another guy in Tayshawn Lyons who has all the potential in the world. Of course, I'm glad he got lifted back up to being a 4-star. He was a 4-star at Washington, just didn't play last year. Have you seen that Washington receiving core? Like I'm not going to hold it against that guy for not playing last year. And looking at even some of the other guys, right? Like Alaki Gilman, a guy who started at Stanford, Cameron Calhoun. Really high recruit who went to Michigan, didn't play. They won the national championship. I think he's going to be okay going elsewhere. Get some edge depth. John Henry Daly and Kanias Vaughn. Also, Anthony Woods is easily going to be one of the 3 backs on this team, which is nice to have depth there. Keenan Johnson, a starter, and Carson Ryan gives Utah arguably the best tight end room in the nation to me. These are guys that are plug and play guys who are ready to go right now. If you want to win in college football, you got to be good right now. And that's what Utah did a good job of focusing on, plugging the few holes I felt like they had because they had a lot of guys returning, but there were still some holes. And most of them, they just decided to plug through the transfer portal with proven guys rather than having to wait and like the unknown, have a proven guy who's done it at level already. I love it.
Yeah. Sometimes it crosses my mind and I'm like, how in the world? I would be very curious to see, to have more inside info about how the Dorian Singer recruitment went, because for Utah to land a player with the resume of a Dorian Singer, I know he had a little bit of a down year last year compared to the year that he had at Arizona before he went to SC, but I mean, for Utah, a program that hasn't been known to be great for wide receivers, we'll say, to land a guy like Dorian Singer, I think was just phenomenal. When that was coming together, I was just like, how in the world like did Utah manage to land Dorian Singer? I could end up looking stupid come this fall, but I just feel like that was an absolute home run. Carson Ryan, I think Carson Ryan partly wanted to come home. I think that played into that a little bit, but still to land a player of Carson Ryan's capability and caliber, I think is a really big win. I think Utah did really well in the portal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, talking about Singer, I think the biggest thing that Utah had to offer was Cam Rising coming back. They're like, look, do all the receivers in our system normally flourish? No, but there's the main pass catcher at Utah has done well, whether that was Devon Vele 2 years ago, even Devon Vele this year, still put up over 600 yards with a less than ideal situation at quarterback and a less ideal just passing attack in general. With Cam, the playbook will be opened up to its fullest. And there's a big opportunity for Singer. So I would be surprised if he doesn't lead Utah in receiving yards amongst receivers. And the only guy he's going to be fighting with for the outright title for that in Utah is, of course, Brant Keithy. So that's where it's interesting. But love what Utah did with the class of 2024. And we're definitely going to continue to talk about and preview about it. Because actually, even today, Utah released and said who their spring captains were going to be as well. So it's funny to think how close we are to spring ball, where a lot of these guys who are early enrollees will get to see in action in the spring coming up. But before we get to spring ball, there's still a huge game to talk about for Utah men's basketball that we're going to be breaking down to close out our show today. And we're going to be diving into that big game that the Utah men's basketball team has coming up in one moment. But first, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now they have great deals, and users can get 100 when you buy a big game ticket with code VEGAS. And those great last minute deal, all in price view from your seat, their best price guarantee. Gametime is the best place. I mentioned the view from your seat. It's my personal favorite. It allows you to see exactly what kind of a view you're going to be getting from your seat, something that not all ticket sites offer, and I think makes it a home run when you use Gametime. Plus that low price guarantee, event cancellation, the job loss protection, it's great because that Gametime guarantee I just referenced, it means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all customer users get $100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app and use code VEGAS100, all caps, no spaces, Vegas 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Ryan, the Utah men's basketball team got a nice win this past weekend to be able to kind of get back on track against Colorado, and now they have quite the test as they're going to take on Arizona. And Arizona, still a top 10 team. When Utah last played the Wildcats, they were a top 10 team, and they lost on the road at Arizona by 19 points in that one. That was just one where, you know, they have so many weapons, whether it's a Caleb Love, a Johnson, of course, Ballo, what he provides, former Ute Pele Larson even doing his thing a little bit too. This is going to be a big test for the Utah men's basketball team, and it's one that's going to be tough to win. Even though you get him inside the Huntsman, I expect a good crowd, but Caleb Love has just been such a premier scorer late. I already went through and highlighted how many guys they got. Coach Lloyd does a great job too. Like, this is going to be tough, but Utah already beat a highly ranked BYU team inside the Huntsman. I think when you're talking about the running Utes men's basketball team, they have the size to wrestle with a guy like Ballo, right? You can throw Lawson Lovering at him. You can throw Brandon Carlson on him some. Kaba is just not as big, but he does have some strength, so I think he can still make some plays on there too, down in the paint too. And this is a game where you got to have your best. Davon Smith has to really shine in this one for Utah because I don't think Raleigh Smith will be back. One of Gabe Badson or Cole Badgema is really going to have to get hot from three. And this is a game too where I mentioned Brandon Carlson a little bit. He might have to be the best player on the floor for Utah to win this game. It's something he's capable of doing. It is tough to take down a team as talented as Arizona, but we did see Utah do it last year too, and they're even better at this year when they took them down at home a year prior, Ryan.
Yeah, you know, I think anyone would probably say Utah is overmatched in this one, but
yes, it would.
I think there's a little bit of a I don't know, mojo's quite the right word there, but I think, you know, despite the little bump in the road that you mentioned that they had before beating Colorado, you know, they had a little bump in the literal road going on the road. They still have problems away from the Huntsman Center, but yeah, at the Huntsman Center, I kind of think it's there's all the chance in the world right there for them to win the game, and so we'll see. You know, I'm kind of, you know, we'll see. Arizona is really, really good, but obviously we've seen Arizona isn't unbeatable. You know, they're not this, you know, absolute juggernaut. They're beatable, and so yeah, I agree with you about Carlson. I think he's Brandon Carlson. He's got to be the best player on the floor for sure. I think, but I love Davon Smith. I've told people, unless I'm forgetting somebody, Davon Smith I think is the most fun player Utah's had since the Kuzma, Pirtle,
I think you might be right.
DeLon Wright, you know, era. I think he is. I think he's super fun, and obviously he puts up numbers, and you know, he's almost gotten multiple triple doubles, you know, and so I like this Utah team certainly, and again, who knows, especially at the Huntsman Center, who knows, and yeah, I think they got a good thing going at the Huntsman Center for sure.
I do. And, just once again, yes, Arizona's the top 10 team. So, no, Utah should not win this game. But let's also not forget, this Arizona team has hit lots of bumps in the road. They lost at Oregon State not long ago. They lost at Washington State. They lost at Stanford. So they've stumbled on the road. They have not won. They've won 3 straight. That's their longest winning streak they've been on since back when they started out the season with just a ton of wins in a row. That included a win at Duke. They beat Michigan State, Wisconsin. So they had a lot of big wins. But this is a team that, like I said, 3 games in a row is the longest winning streak they've been on since they had that huge streak to start the season. So they are kind of due on this road trip based on their recent track record for a loss to either Utah and Colorado. And dang it, Ryan, let's just make it Utah on Thursday night, and that being tonight, because we are recording this a day prior. So let's just make it happen then. It's going to be a fun game to follow and see if Utah can get it done. And if you guys want more Utah coverage too, make sure you guys head over to the Deseret News. You can check out Ryan's stuff. He's got lots of stuff going there. We got the NBA trade deadline today, so we'll see if the Jazz can make any last-minute moves. There's a lot going on in the world of sports. And Ryan, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, JT.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes, but we'll be back with you tomorrow talking all things Utah athletics, and we look forward to seeing you then.